Hello everyone, it's Peculiar Stories here. If you like near-death experiences, consider subscribing. Also like the video so you can receive more interesting and eye-opening stories. Alright, let's get to the story. On Friday, June 14th, 2018, I was wrapping up a long exercise session. I hiked for 7 miles and did some intense weightlifting. During my last set of dumbbell curls, I felt a sharp pop in my right upper neck, with a smaller pain near the base of my skull on the left, and immediately put the weights down and tried to stretch it out as it felt like a pulled muscle. Nothing seemed to help though, and I eventually took some Tylenol and decided to take it easy the next few days. However, the pain continued to increase hour by hour, and on Sunday, June 16th, Father's Day, I woke up with even more pain and let my wife know that we needed to go to urgent care to see if there was maybe something worse than just a pulled muscle. We had planned to have fun that day, and I was looking forward to having my first Father's Day with my daughter, but I figured in and out, and we would do our planned activities afterward. As my wife was getting ready to go, and I was downstairs with the baby, I took my blood pressure as the pain was increasing even more, and it was rather high. 180/90 or so. I didn't feel very nervous or afraid at this point, but was certainly concerned. 10 minutes later, my vision started to go in and out, and the pain felt like a gorilla jumped off a building and was beating me in the head over and over with each heartbeat. I called for my wife to come downstairs and got out my phone and told her to call 911 as my voice started to slur, and I collapsed on the floor, and my vision faded out. The pain was unbearable. I had never felt pain on that scale before, and it felt like my head exploded before my vision went black. At this point, I had felt like I had died, or was at least closer to death than I had ever been in my life. As I was prepared for whatever came next, an absolute peace came over me, and I heard a voice say, "Everything is going to be all right. Just chill out." Not in my voice, but in a voice that sounded like an older man or a flower child from the 60s. In other words, a hippie. I did not see who was talking or had I ever heard that voice before, but it felt familiar and comforting. I felt connected to it and to everything around me, and as I let go of my surroundings, it felt like part of my ego had died, and everything that was happening and had happened up to that point in my entire life just made perfect sense to me. And then the pain stopped for a brief second, and I was back in my own body and aware of what was going on around me. I'm not sure how long I was out. It could have been seconds, but also felt like days. My emotions were unpleasant, and the worst pain I have ever felt before I collapsed, absolute clarity during, and lingering clarity after. I also felt very frustrated that it was dismissed as a panic attack, and that I could not get in to see a doctor for weeks and months after going to the ER. I encountered a definite being, or a voice clearly of mystical or unearthly origin. I heard a voice telling me everything was going to be all right, that this was just a small part of my life, and that I just needed to relax. It came at me without sound, but more of a telepathic communication that was instantaneous, as if the past and future no longer existed. It reminded me of one of those stereotypical hippies on TV like Cheech and Chong, but more loving, more knowing, and actually full of peace and love. The pain returned after a moment, but it was more manageable even if the same intensity, like I could just ignore the pain. I could not move at all, and my voice was slurred, but I felt a perfect clarity of thought and was able to direct my wife on the phone on what to say, and then had her call a few friends and family members to come over, as I knew I was going to go to the hospital and didn't want her to be alone. I was able to check myself for stroke symptoms and did not seem to think that could be it, as the paralysis was on both sides of the body and my face was not drooping. I also felt very clear-minded and more aware than I had ever been in my life despite the pain and being unable to move and articulate my thoughts through my mouth. In fact, I was calm through it all and did not feel in any danger at all. After the ambulance arrived, they were able to sit me up and my body started to jerk and shake uncontrollably. After about 10 to 15 minutes, I was able to stand up and walk with help to the ambulance. I had another bout of paralysis in the ambulance and once more at the hospital. I was not scared, but rather just very thankful and glad I was still in this life. The doctor who first saw me thought it was a panic attack, but still ordered an MRI and CT scan, both of which were clear. I was discharged shortly after and had to be helped to walk to the car and was driven home. For the next few weeks, it felt like I was just not all the way back to normal or used to my body. Going down the stairs took a lot of thought and use of handrails, and I had a stutter that developed during and after that would come back if there was too much information going into my brain, like it was short-circuiting. It also took some effort just to walk some days without tripping over myself. I probably should not have been driving, and I ended up running a few stop signs and a red light within a few weeks of the event. So I had my wife take over until I felt ready to drive again. I was able to go in and see my regular doctor after 2 weeks, and still had lingering symptoms with stuttering and walking issues. It took forever to get in to see them. They immediately referred me to a neurologist, which took 6 months to get in and see, by which time I had completely recovered from whatever had happened, and was diagnosed with a complex migraine causing catatonia. In that very brief instant of laying on the floor, though, my entire outlook on life changed, and I feel it was for the better. My life before the event seemed to be on autopilot, and while I felt happy, I was just going through the motions and not living with purpose. Now, I am more focused on just finding connections with others and being the best version of myself so that I can better take care of those around me. I shared it with my therapist, who was using CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, to help with my insomnia issues, and with my sister. They were both very supportive, shared some of their own experiences, my sister, and books to read on understanding the mind and near-death experiences, my therapist. I have not told my wife about it, but I don't feel I need to. It was a very traumatic event for her, and she still is worried about my overall health. We do communicate about everything else in our lives, though, and made a trust will for our daughter shortly after. This event has also helped me to dig up things in my past that I had been burying and not willing to engage or discuss. Chiefly, how much self-doubt and imposter syndrome behavior I had been engaging in that has led to negative thoughts and emotions. I feel this mostly stems from my childhood and trying to be someone who my others wanted me to be, and not simply being myself. Also, my dreams, when I do have them, are also very much more vivid, and I can generally remember them very well, and will have lucid dreams from time to time. Whatever happened to me in that brief instant when I heard that voice and collapsed on the ground felt more real than anything I had felt before, and I am not afraid of death or what may come after. I also try to enjoy being with myself and finding new hobbies and ways to explore the world. That does it for today's video. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment below.